he was not even leaving his room. And to go to the bathroom, I used to put my hands under his shoulders and bring him into the bathroom and bring him back out. We were doing this later. But this was going on at that time. Wherever he went, I would carry him. So when he heard what had happened and this man was coming, of course he wanted to take part, have a ceremony, he wanted to greet him, he wanted to speak. But he was very ill. And just drinking water, he would take a little orange, he would just suck on orange. But the day he came, he said, all right, he said, I'm going to go. He said, I have to be there. And he had me shave his head that day, which we always did with an electric clipper. And he asked me to shave his face with a razor. And it was the only one time I ever did it. And you see Prabhupada sitting there, his face has lots of features to it, not many curves. So shaving it was a big challenge. And as I was doing it, I could feel Prabhupada's skin. It was hot. He had such a high fever. It was very hot. But I shaved him, took him to the bathroom, take a bath, get ready. Then we came back out, and I helped him put tilak on. And then I had to leave the room. And I came back in, and he said, okay, he said, are you ready, we can go? And I said, yes, bro. And he looked at me, he said, do I have tilak on? And we had just put it on a few moments before, but he was so transcendentally just didn't remember putting the tilak on. And I said, yes, bro, I do have tilak on. He said, okay. He said, let's go. So again, we brought him out. Myself, Kaladu Prabhu was here at the time. He was also helping, assisting. And we brought him out. And Prabhupada sat down, and of course he spoke. He would have never thought he had been sitting in his room for the last 2 weeks. He just spoke, and like nothing was going on. Thanking him and talking about the project. And he spoke about 10 minutes, I think. And then we brought him back into the room, and he laid back down. That was it. But this was Prabhupada. He says in first canto in a purport that pure devotees, unaffected by the threefold miseries, doesn't even identify with any of them. And this, when you were with Prabhupada, you would see that. In my experience, you never knew how, if he didn't feel well, except he would tell you how to adjust his cooking. Like he would tell me, today make khichdi. He said, I don't feel well. Otherwise, there was no way of knowing. You didn't go in the room and he would say, my head hurts, my legs hurt, I think I have a flu. It never happened. But he would tell you what to do. Today, give me dry massage. Today, heat the mustard oil. These were the way he made adjustments. Otherwise, just transcendental to all of the conditions. So at that time, one day, he called me, rang his bell. His bed, he had the bed in the sitting room, as you can see it now. It was over further towards the wall. And he said, you remember how I taught you to make upma? Which he showed me how to make upma one day. He said, I want you to make upma for me. So I said, yes, Prabhupada. And then I said, well, Jamuna's here. She was right in the other room. We're all just sitting waiting. We're waiting for Prabhupada to get better. I said, Jamuna's here. I said, should I tell her? He said, no, I want you to make it. I said, yes, Prabhupada. So I left the room, I went back, and, in Prabhupada's quarters, many times when you would open the doors, there were a series of devotees right on the other side of the door, like this, trying to hear everything Prabhupada was saying. Because whatever he said, that was prashadam, and that was like the best food you could have. Just hearing anything he said was wonderful. So they're all standing. What did he say? What did he say? I said he wants to make upma. He wants me to make upma. And immediately Jamuna said, okay, I said, Jamuna told me, like, wants me to make it. She said, okay, whatever you... Immediately she said, all right. You know, she didn't say, what do you mean he wants you to make it? You know, I'm the cook. I'm the good cook. No, there was nothing like, no false ego. There was no false ego in this devotee. And she said, whatever you need, let me know. But we didn't have anything. Prabhupada wasn't eating, and there was no stalls outside. There was nothing out there. It was just the road, a dusty road. You know? Raj, that's all that was out there. No cars, many other things. Peacocks were out there, vultures were out there. None of these things you can even see now, you just see cars. So the only thing we had were dried peas that she had trunk, you know, of things for Prabhupada. So we hydrated the peas and made some upma. It took just 10-15 minutes. So I came in, had a plate, and just one katori, but upma, and that was it. So I brought it in, put a table on Prabhupada's bed, and put the plate on it, offered obeisances. As it says, offer obeisances again and again. Prabhupada was so merciful. You know, I would go in his room sometimes 20, 30 times a day. He never told me to stop offering obeisances when I went into his room. He never said, all right, 10 is a maximum. From now on you can just come in, walk in and out. Never said it. Just 20, 30 times a day, 50 times a day. It didn't matter. This is what we did. And very happily before Prabhupada. So I came in, I put the plate on the table, offered obeisances, and left. So 5 minutes go by, and I hear the bell, ding, ding, ding. And I go back in. I offer obeisances and I sit up. And of course I'm immediately looking, not even looking at Prabhupada, just looking at this bowl to see how much did he eat. And it was just like you could imagine, you know, having a 5-year-old or something, you give them something they don't like, they just kind of push it around. So it looked like things had happened, but you could see still the whole bowl of upma was there. And I looked, and as soon as I looked up at Prabhupada, he said to me, first class. He was more concerned how I felt than for himself. He said, I tasted it. He said, and I liked. He said, I showed you how to make it. He said, and you make it very nice. He said, and I thought, if you make it, maybe I'll get some appetite. He said, but I didn't get any appetite. He said, but it's very tasty. He said, very, very. He just kept complimenting me on what I had done. This was Prabhupada. Never, didn't think about his own needs. He was thinking about how I felt, that I wouldn't feel bad that he didn't eat the upma. So I said, yes, Prabhupada, thank you. So then I left the room, brought it back. And of course we all honored what was there, but we're all very sad that Prabhupada still had no appetite. So then every night, if you see Prabhupada's garden now, that was completely unfinished. It was just an open area. There was, the porch was there, outside porch, and it was just bricks, laid bricks, right on the surface. And he had a bed out there because it was so hot. It was the beginning of September, it was very hot. So he would sleep out there at night. And we had the mosquito net, you know, it was a post bed. And the mosquito net would go from there, it would go all the way down to the bricks, to the ground. So when we went there in the evening, I would climb under the mosquito net and give Prabhupada his evening massage, rubbing his legs, rubbing his feet. And then after he nodded, say, all right, take rest. I laid under the bed, on the ground, on a mat, on the bricks, because the mosquito net went all the way down around, so that way I was also protected from mosquitoes. And if Prabhupada needed anything, I was right there, right underneath of him, under that bed. And so Prabhupada took rest, and I crawled underneath the bed and was lying there. And a few hours later, I awoke to the sound of his cane hitting the bricks. And I was there right on the ground, and I looked, and Prabhupada was lying on the ground. So, of course, I picked him up, grabbed him, put him, sat him on the bed, and I said, Prabhupada, what happened? He said, I needed to use the bathroom. He said, and I didn't want to disturb you. He said, because you were taking rest. He said, and I thought I had enough strength to go to the bathroom myself to get there, because it was, 10 meters or so from where he was to go to where his bathroom was. He said, so I thought I had enough strength to do it. He said, so I got up, and he said immediately he fell. He said, so I realized I didn't have enough strength. So it was the one time where actually I chastised him in a way, in a very humble way. I said, Prabhupada, I'm lying underneath your bed. I said, so if you need anything, because all you have to do is say, call me. I'm here waiting to do this. He said, yes, I know. He said, thank you. He said, but I just didn't want to disturb you. Imagine this person, how easy it is, no matter what condition you're in, to want to offer your life to such a person. All he wants to do is bring everyone here to this place. Come to Vrindavan, come get purified, come chant Hare Krishna. That's all he wanted. See the whole world become Krishna conscious in that way. So even when your whole service is to take care of him, because I was sleeping, resting, he didn't want to bother. So these are the things that I saw going on over my tenure here being with Prabhupada. I knew everyone, and I know more now how much hard work, how much effort everyone has put in to providing this place for all of us under Srila Prabhupada's guidance. You'll be hearing from Prabhu. I can't wait to see Surabi Prabhu. I haven't seen him since 1975, so 40-year anniversary for that. And I have to say, I'm very anxious to see him. In 75, just before the opening, I would bring him into Prabhupada's room 10, 20 times a day, so Prabhupada could chastise him, to yell at him, to say they're taking your money, they're stealing money, they're doing this, they're doing that. Where are the doors? Why aren't the doors on every day? And Sarat would just sit there, and he never offered an excuse. I'm trying, we'll do it today, and then the next day it would be the same thing. We would replay it. Get Surah, he would say, because Prabhupada would go on the morning walk, and his morning walk, half of it consisted walking around here, and he would find every defect. Prabhupada would find very easy. Why is this like this? Why is this? Why isn't this done yet? I remember the doors. Because any day we're going to open this temple, and these huge doors which are hanging there now so nicely. They open and close very well. For 40 years now they've been opening and closing because they weren't there. So one day they magically appeared. And then amongst all of that, the Surah was coming in. And the one day he says, get Surah. To find him was also very difficult. He was somewhere around. He didn't yell in Prabhupada's room, but when he left, he yelled a lot, I think, when he was at his workers. So he would be chastising them. So he said, get him. So I got him, and he brings Prabhupada in. Surah comes into the room, and Prabhupada said, Surah, he said, my toilet seat, they've given me a plastic toilet seat, and it's broken. He said, I'm an old man. He said, I need to sit down to pass. He said, I have this broken toilet seat. Now this is days before the temple's supposed to open, and Prabhupada starts saying, I need a toilet seat. And he said, I want a wood one. So I was, yes, Prabhupada, I'll get right on it. So this went on for another 4 days, one wooden toilet seat. Every day, Prabhupada was saying, get Surabh. So in addition to everything else, he's chastising him. Where's my toilet seat? So Surabh had given it to this one mystery, a little carpenter hand, a teak wood toilet seat, but he's carving it like it's a deity because it's for Guru Maharaj. The mystery was very, very happy to have this service. So he was making the perfect seat for Srila Prabhupada. But it was taking a long, long time. And each day, call Surabh, and I would get Surabh, and I would be in the room, and I would just, my heart went out to him, every day. All these things. But there's a reason. There was a reason Prabhupada did everything. There was always good reason. So finally, it was finished. It was prepared, brought it in, hooked it up. And Prabhupada tried it out, came back, he gave his approval, and then he said to me, he said, keep rubbing mustard oil on it. He said, until it won't absorb any more oil. So then that became my project for the next few days. I just kept rubbing this seat with oil until it finished absorbing. And then as you'll hear, you attend all these classes by the devotees in the morning, afternoon, and evening, you're going to hear how this temple manifests by Prabhupada's desire. By his desire, everyone. When we say that, the lame can walk. This is reality. This is not just some flowery, poetic words. It's the truth. People, we had no ability to do anything except for Prabhupada's desire. Made everything manifest. So then after the opening, again, Prabhupada's walking around with all of the devotees. Surabh is there, so many swamis, Tamal Krishna Brahmananda, all these. And it was gorgeous, as it is now. It's even becoming more gorgeous by Prabhupada's mercy. But it was beautiful. It was the most beautiful thing in Vrindavan. And someone said to Prabhupada, Surabh, he's done very wonderful thing. And Prabhupada has a big smile, and he kind of laughed, he chuckled. He said, yes. He said, every day they're coming up. He said, the devotees are coming up and saying, Surabh has done so nicely. You've been such a wonderful temple, so beautiful. He said, but all I do is chastise them. He said, but that's my duty. He said, I see he has done very wonderful, he said. He said, but I'm his spiritual master, he said. So, he said, my duty is also to chastise. And Surabh, Prabhupada knew. I was telling Vrindavan Prabhu, I said, I was with Prabhupada more than 2 years. I said, he raised his voice to me like 4 or 5 times because he knew if he did it more, I would have just disappeared. But someone like Surabh, who was actually strong, he could go in there and get chastised 5 times in one day and just go back out, and he'd be even more conviction to accomplish the task for Srila Prabhupada. So he knew how to deal with each and every one of us. He knew everything. I could tell you different things, but I won't. I'll leave it to the others to do because it's their stories. But so this was some of my experience here in Vrindavan. I find this the most wonderful place. Prabhupada has given us the opportunity to come here. From the very beginning, I just had no idea I still don't, how much Srila Prabhupada has given us. This is going to be I can see this is going to be the most wonderful festival. My God brothers, God sisters, all those who have been here, I hope I'm able to attend every function, to hear from them, to hear their stories, to hear their love for Srila Prabhupada. I'll go back and just tell Prabhupada, pure devotee, knew past, present, and future, and whatever Krishna revealed to him. And I'm sure as Hari Prabhu can tell you, when you're with Prabhupada, he knows you so well. He knows everything. And fortunately, I was very covered over in illusion and didn't understand to the extent he knew all of my shortcomings in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, I would have never even been able to go in and bow down before him. I would have been filled with so much shame. I would have been so embarrassed to present myself before him. But these weren't the things that he saw. He would see that service you're doing. And he would fan that so that you would do more. But I guess one of my favorite, and many of you have heard the story, I'll tell it because a bunch of Gaudas telling me to talk a little longer. So, and it was when we came here to Vrindavan, first time. And when I came to Krishna consciousness, I was immediately presented, always with Krishna. First thing when I walked into a temple, Krishna book had just come out. So I wanted to know, it's what I wanted to know when I ran into devotees. I wanted to know who God was. I wanted to know what he did, who he was, and I wanted to feel his presence. So from the very first day, all these things were given to me. The devotees had just gotten the first volume of Krishna book. Imagine, they're reading about Krishna. So then they were telling me all about Krishna. So from not knowing anything, I was given everything. God's name, his address, his mother's, father's name, his friends, everything was there. It was wonderful. So then I went right into the temple, and I wound up New Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, non-different from Vrindavan. This again, Prabhupada's mercy, because he went to these places. He took Krishna to these places. He made all of these places tirthas. So then I went to New Vrindavan. So from a city life in Philadelphia, I was milking cows and mending fences for Krishna's cows, just like that. And then that was April 1971. So then 1 year later, practically 1 year to the day, I received Brahmin initiation in Los Angeles. And now I was reading Krishna book to Prabhupada in his garden. I wasn't his servant. Somehow or other I was reading Krishna book. And then I got to see how much Prabhupada relished these pastimes. My first day I read about a demon getting killed by Krishna and Balaram. And Prabhupada laughed and laughed and laughed when that time came. Just a slap of the hand, or tearing, just killing it. And Prabhupada laughed so much. Everyone, just 6 of us in this garden, we laughed with Prabhupada. Tears coming down his eyes. And then he said, I like the cowherd boys very much. And we continued reading. So the next day I found a story to read to Prabhupada about a demon getting killed. It was one of my favorite demons, Dravid gorilla. So I wanted to read that to Prabhupada because I just found it very funny. And I just thought, if I read this story to Prabhupada, he's going to laugh, just like he did yesterday. And I have no idea why I even imagined that it would happen. But I was convinced, and I was so convinced Prabhupada would laugh. And we went into the room, and already I was learning Prabhupada. You know, he would just look at you, and that was it. You knew what you were supposed to do. He didn't talk, and give big explanations. I was sitting there, right there, holding this big volume Krishna book like this, And I had my thumb in it because I knew what I wanted to read. So then he was there for a few minutes talking, and then he goes like that. That was it. And read. I opened it up, the story of the Vid Gorilla. And my heart's pounding because I'm thinking Prabhupada's going to laugh. And I start reading and I get to the point where me, a 20-year-old boy, 20-year-old male body, found it very funny. And I said, and he comes out from behind the trees and he urinates. So that to me was very funny, that urination. You know, he urinates all over the sacrifice. And as I was saying it, I was just like, and as soon as I said it, Prabhupada starts laughing and laughing, and he's slapping his knee, his whole body's shaking up and down, he's laughing. And that was it. He just laughed, and everybody, we all laughed and laughed so much. And looking back, I think, that was amazing, you know, that he did that. But I thought he did it for real, but he did it for me. I wanted it so much. I just wanted it so much to see Prabhupada laugh, and he just laughed and laughed till he cried. So then we went through the rest of the story. But I could see Prabhupada was there. You know, I'm reading and we're all sitting and listening. But Prabhupada was on a different level when the story was going on. He was right there, enjoying so much. So then we completed, and the next day, we went in again. I'm the designated Krishna book reader. You know, when you come into a temple, you've given a service, that's it. That's your service. You can't give up that service unless somebody else is. So I was the reader, but I'm holding the book, and I didn't prepare, so I didn't have my next story for a demon, because that's all I wanted to do was read about demons. Krishna Balaram killing demons. So Prabhupada, as soon as we got in, he didn't give me any time to prepare. She was playing with me. You know? So we got in, we offered obeisances, and for the first time in that whole week, as soon as we sat up, he looked at me and went, read. And I didn't have my story. So of course now I'm looking for a particular story, any story, as long as it was blood, as long as there would be blood in it, I wanted to find it. And then he raised his voice, he said, anywhere. He said, Krishna's like a sweet ball. He held up his hand. He said, wherever you bite, it's sweet. So that was one of my first lessons. So then I just found the story, whatever was the next story, and I read it to him. So then, just before we came here, so that was 1972. May. So 5 years later, now I've been his servant for 2 years. At that time I wasn't serving him personally. Now I've been a servant for 2 years. And this is when he stayed in Atlanta. And that whole trip, Prabhupada went around the world. 2 months. He left Bombay. And he went from Bombay to Hong Kong, to Tokyo, to Hawaii, to Los Angeles, Mexico City, Caracas, Miami, and Atlanta. And everywhere, every temple he's going in, Prabhupada was exhibiting like ecstatic symptoms. They were visible, much more than any time I had ever seen. It was like they were just spilling out of him. He couldn't contain it. In Miami, everywhere he's going, you see Lord Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and he's seeing 10 years have gone by. And people are chanting Hare Krishna all over the world. In Caracas, he said, the Lord has traveled very far to be with you. Very far, he said he'd come. Of course, with Prabhupada, he went around the world in just less than 2 months. It was an amazing pace. Then he went to Miami, and again he focused. And in Atlanta, a very famous lecture lasted 2 minutes. You can hear the audio. Prabhupada, he started speaking, and he was talking about his trip. And then he said, now I'm here in Atlanta. He said, this temple is the best. And all the devotees went into ecstasy. And then he was already choked up, and he started to say, the two lords, he said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Prabhu. He said they're very merciful. Very merciful. He said, Krishna, he's merciful. He said, but he demands surrender. He said, but Lord Chaitanya, he said, he's so merciful, he doesn't even require surrender. He said, just chant Hare Krishna. He's distributing love of God. And then he just stopped. He was in tears. And then he closed his eyes. Tears were coming down on the Vyasa-san. And he went in ecstasy. So then, after a long, long time, probably 1 minute or less, it seemed like forever, he just opened his eyes and chanted Hare Krishna. So then, in his room that night, evening massage, Prabhupada had his quarters there in the back, the nice little house it was. He had upstairs, a bedroom, kitchen, servants' quarters, sitting room. So I was in the room and I'm massaging his legs and his feet. And there was a big painting. It's like here you have these big, big paintings. Well, this painting was Krishna Balaram. You see from infinite number of cows, calves, cowherd boys. And very quiet, the room's almost dark. And I'm just rubbing his legs. And the evening time was the nicest time. As a servant for me, this was the best time. No one ever went into Prabhupada's room in the evening during that massage. It was just Prabhupada and you. So it was very special. Because for me, I felt very special to have that privilege. And sometimes it would be very quiet. Sometimes Prabhupada would talk. So this night he was looking at that painting. 3 years had gone by, and Prabhupada said, I like the cowherd boys very much. Exact same thing he had said so many years before. And then he started telling the story that was there, that he was seeing, the pastime. And he was telling them, Krishna Balaram, he said every day they would herd, he said the calves. He said they were young boys, just 5, 6 years old. He said, so they didn't herd the cows, they herded the calves. He said, and every morning, he said, his mother Yasoda would make a nice opulent tiffin. Prabhupada said opulent meant ghee and sugar. Lots of ghee, lots of sugar. So his tiffin had lots of nice things, halva, kachori, bablu, like that. He said, and the others, they had simple, tasty, Prabhupada called sumptuous prasadam. Sumptuous, he said, meant very tasty, but not so rich, rice, chapatis, like that. So then they would go and they would play, and of course, what did the cowherd boys do? So he's telling all this very softly, he would speak, and the whole time he just rub, squeeze his legs, rub his feet. And he said, so then they would steal his lunch, his tiffin, and they actually would play keep away. He said, they were tossing it, this person take, that person would take. He said, then finally, and they would give him one of their lunches. He didn't have the kachori and all. And then he just said, he said, I just want to go back home, back to Godhead. And he kachori and babalu with Krishna. And then he closed his eyes, he didn't say another word. So this is what Prabhupada has given us here. This is our business. When you come to Vrindavan, we can feel that idea. You just want to go back home, back to Godhead. Leave this place. Imagine nice kachoris. Just like Jamuna cooked so many wonderful things. She was so empowered to cook wonderful things for Srila Prabhupada. So we can't even imagine. But Prabhupada, he gave us a glimpse. Everything we know is just a glimpse that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Just a little taste, just a little scent, a little fragrance of the spiritual world, of spiritual life. So just relish these next 4 or 5 days, whatever it is, those of you who are residents here, just try to assist everyone, all the people coming here, offer them a little service, like Prabhupada said. You who are living here are most fortunate. So you have to increase that taste for all of us who come here and visit, so that we want to spend more and more time here. So you can try to see, give them the opportunity, give a little service, as Prabhupada said. That's Vedic. Not that we're just taking, but we have to give. And the more you give, the more you'll receive Krishna. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This time, anniversary celebration, Krishna Bhagavan Mandir ki jai. Hare Krishna.